It's the biggest March ever. Big premieres, big families, and big surprises. This month on Disney Plus, stream blockbusters like West Side Story, Free Guy, and Disney's Encanto. As well as original movies and series like Olivia Rodrigo Driving Home to You, Cheaper by the Dozen, Pixar's Turning Red, and Marvel Studios' Moon Knight. All of these and more streaming this month on Disney Plus.
Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Amir,
Salman,
And Shara.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes toward creating more and better content at Khandaan Podcast. Visit us on patreon.com/Khandaan Podcast.
A big thank you to our patrons over at Patreon. We are only using first names of people's chosen anonymous handles because this is the internet. So thank you, Abdullah, Shakila, Jackie, Navsharan, Lady Sybil, Suha, Irfan, Chitra, Manish, Isa, Shah, Drama Panda, Rebecca, Deepthi, G, Deepta, Mofi, Karen, Devansh, Javeria, Supriya, Pranjal, Lina, Puitams, Nika, SK, and our mystery benefactor who prefers not to be named. We appreciate every one of you and are super excited to be dropping one of our first experimental episodes later this week.
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. I'm joined with my co-host Amrita and Sujoy. Hey Amrita, hey Sujoy.
Hi,
Hey,
Assam.
Asim. Hey, Amrita.
घबराया हुआ है.
Hi, lagegi, hi.
And we also have our special guest Manish Mathur joining us. Manish, how are you? It's been too long, man.
I know. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I think I'm still feeling guilty to invite you on an episode you actually didn't want to be on. And now I think we have something that you actually want to talk about.
Yeah, I know. I'm still bitter about being forced to watch Wanted.
It was a good episode, though. It was a good episode.
Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
I
you
think
know
this
how I
might,
feel every episode, Manish.
yeah, I think this one might be a bit more in your wheelhouse. So,
Yeah, definitely.
what are we doing this week? We are doing our main review is going to be Gehraiyaan, which just dropped yesterday. I finished the movie at like 3 a.m. at night. Sujoy, when did you watch it? Like at 4 a.m. in the morning, you finished it?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something crazy. So we're totally fresh. I've not like read any reviews or even like clicked on the hashtag. So I don't even know what the conversation about this movie is. So it's going to be exciting. And we're doing a review on Loop Lapeta, Rocket Boys, Great Indian Murder, and a bunch of other stuff. But I think we want to start first of all. Lata Mangeshkar passed away last week. And yeah, we just wanted to take a moment and, kind of pay our respect. Amrita, I'm going to say, Amrita, I know Lata is important for you, but I think it's impossible to even like detach Bollywood from Lata. It's like, together, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, at least for our generation, I guess.
Yeah. No, when I was a child, my parents would put me to sleep with, like Bhule Bisre Geet, basically. And so like there was an album with just Lata and Asha songs, like duets between the two of them. And that was my favorite cassette to fall asleep to when I was little. And I can't even begin to count the number of like stories that I came up with around those songs because I hadn't watched a lot of those movies. They were from the 40s and 50s and 60s. And I hadn't watched all those movies, but I could imagine what it was because Lata Mangeshkar was also really blessed in the fact that she worked in the industry at a time when she had access to some of the greatest talents that the world of cinema has ever seen, be it in terms of lyricists. I mean, she worked with some of the greatest poets of the 20th century, whether it's for musicians. She worked for some of the greatest talents in the Hindi film industry, or whether it was even directors and actors and actresses. Like she just worked with the best of the best. So it was really apparent in her work. And go in peace, Latatai.
Like when people, often say it's the end of an era, this like truly is one of those. You can't, like, there is no exaggeration when you mention that. Like, when people often, post pictures of Queen Elizabeth II, of how long her reign has been, and the world leaders that, she's been in the same era as she's been queen. So from like Nelson Mandela and all the way from Second World War onwards, it's been like that with Lata, as you said, like from like KL Saigal, Pankaj Malik, Madan Mohan, Shankar Jaikishan, to like even A.R. Rahman and all of those. So and like the singers that she's been with, like we have seen the era of Kishore Kumar, the era of Mukesh and Mohammad Rafi, but the one constant of that era has been Lata Mangeshkar, and it truly is like there is only one. Like I don't know if there is any other parallel to what Lata Mangeshkar means to India and Indian music, and from like Hindustani classical to Bollywood to regional languages, and she's sung in so many languages, and like, yeah, she's unparalleled, like, and it is an end of an era in every sense of the word.
I just keep thinking about how long her career was and how she stayed relevant, for so long. And I mean, I was thinking the other day, like when I was born, she could have retired or kind of been on the, she could have like slowed her career down 30 years ago, but she kept going for another 20 years, and or at least for another, she wanted for so long. And she's saying, I mean, I think like if you can like name an actress, from my generation, the Kajol, the Mother, of all those women, she's saying for all of them, and did so well, and even her career expanding all the way back to the 50s, I guess. I mean, it's truly, it's almost impossible to speak about her legacy, because she had such an impact, and she was so, I mean, like I'm, you guys know I'm a huge Yastropa guy, and like she's like the voice of that entire stable of filmmaking. She has such a large hand in creating that, so creating that aesthetic and that style. So yeah, I mean, you guys have all been spot on. I mean, it's truly an impeccable legacy, and really so tragic that she's no longer with us.
I think when Sujoy was mentioning Mohammad Rafi, Kishore Kumar, like these guys, I felt they had passed when we kind of we came into Bollywood, I feel. But Lata was still there, and she had legendary status even then. I just remember when I think this is my like big memory of her is when. Do you remember when the album of Lekin dropped?
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
Yara Sili Sili, and like it was basically just sold on Lata's voice, that whole album, and it was just like like again, I grew up, in Belgium. Somebody is taking shots at this moment whenever I mention that I grew up in Belgium, so I didn't have that connection. But it reached that album it was almost like it felt like a private album, because the movie wasn't like a big thing. It was kind of an artsy movie, right? But like the album was such a phenomenon, and I was like, wow, like a singer can really transcend. The movie, the actors, anything involved, you're just selling it on the voice of the playback singer. And that is an achievement in itself in, a music industry that's very much anchored towards the stars and the male actors mostly. But this was then also like a female playback singer. And that was just amazing too. So, and I mean, for Khandaan, like a lot of the movies that we really truly love is the Shah Rukh era, the Salman era. All of those songs, Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, Dil To Pagal Hai, all of those were, Lata. So, yeah, it's a sad day, I guess. But I mean, she had a great and long and legendary life, So yeah, but it's always still sad. So rest in peace, I would say. Anything else? Do you want to do favorite song? I mean, I couldn't even pick favorite songs. Like, we thought about it, but I don't know if you have any shout outs or anything like I think there's been so many tributes on Twitter and things like that, and pieces written about her. But anything else that you guys want to add?
Well, like my favorite, because my mom and dad, they were both very much into the SD Burman and RD Burman era of music, so I grew up listening to mostly those. But I also, would sometimes get to listen to her black and white songs from Mehel and stuff. But my favorites are the SD Burman and RD Burman era, from Abhiman to Amar Prem and Aradhana. Those are my jam. Whenever I my default go to Lata ji song would be that era of Lata, and she sounded the best. Inarguably for me, in my humble opinion, she sounded the best in that era of Hindi cinema.
Yeah.
But also she collaborated with Salil Chaudhary and made a lot of Bengali songs, which were again remade into Hindi classics, in Anand and stuff. Those are great as well.
I really loved her working with A.R. Rahman. O Palan Hare Jia Jale. I think. That's, oh my God, that song is so sad. But yeah, I think because he found new ways to utilize her vocals. So as he does with a lot of these established singers when he works with them. So yeah, I would say that, and of course Lamhe Kabhi Kabhi Dar Dil To Pagal Hai, Chandni, of course. Yeah.
No, I agree with Sujoy that Lata's best years were definitely in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. That's when she worked with. I think her voice was in its best range in those years. Before that and after that, I think her voice was either just building up or else had deteriorated a little bit. And it kind of upsets me sometimes when there are people online who remember her from those years, from when she is much older. And obviously her voice is very incongruous for the very young women that she was singing for. And they sort of judge her based upon that. And I always think that's a really silly way to go about it. But yeah, I mean, I said this on Twitter, she was really the soundtrack of my life. The happiness, sadness, there's a Lata song for every kind of mood.
Yeah. Amrita, khul ke bolo, you're talking about me, right? That's the comment I usually make. And I'll be honest, when we were compiling lists, I was like, I really like her 90s and 2000s stuff, I really like it. Even Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham and all that, that's really recent, but it's those are classic songs even, so you guys have much more classier picks than I do. But legend has passed for sure. Let's move on. Let's start with the Loop Lapeta maybe.
दुनिया से मार खाने की हमें आदत हो गई थी, इसलिए हमने एक दूसरे को ही अपना पेन किलर बना लिया. उसके लिए इट वाज लव एट फर्स्ट फाइट. और मैं बहुत भाग चुकी थी, अब बस पांव टिकाना चाहती थी. कसीनो जाना बंद कर.
सभी लाइफ बदल जाती है. All it takes is a day.
लाइफ का तो पता नहीं, तेरी शक्ल जरूर बदल गई है.
सभी we're so fucked.
तेरा काम बहुत सिंपल होगा. इस बैग को उस एड्रेस पर लेके जा. और तुझे बेडरूम मिलेगा.
Manish, did you get a chance to see it?
No, I haven't seen that yet, but I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Why did you not? It's a new Tapsee Pannu movie. Why didn't you not just go watch it day of release?
I know. I should have. She deserves it.
Amrita, did you get a chance to watch it?
I got a chance, but like, did I actually utilize it? No.
What's happening? Is something happening with Tapsee Pannu's image? I think, is it?
I think she's just annoying, but I honestly, like, that wasn't even it. Like, I just didn't want to watch this movie. Like, it wasn't, it just wasn't something that really appealed to me.
Suja, you did, right? You Acha Bacha. You watched the German and the original, right? You watched the original version?
Of course, yeah. The German and the original. I watched Run Lola Run many years ago, and I was definitely in my formative years, so I wasn't. I still don't know if I'm able to completely appreciate how the genius of its filmmaking and the storytelling and how compact it is, how dense it is, and it's almost like a roller coaster ride, which is over before you know it. And I think, what was your question? Did I watch Loop Lapeta and did I like it?
Yeah, did you like it? Exactly.
Yeah, of course I liked it. I really liked it. I know, like, there has been a lot of conversation about, like, it's really polarizing. Like, people who like it are like, really like it, and then people are like, oh, this is pretentious shit, and like, yeah, I fall into the former portion of the audience. I really enjoyed it. It expanded on the universe, and I really enjoyed the Easter eggs and the style of filmmaking. It's a first-time filmmaker trying to, sort of leave his mark on visual way of storytelling, and he took some, a great source material and went completely ballistic with it, and for the most part of it really landed for me.
Is it an official remake of Run Lola Run?
Yeah. It is. I think they're credited in it, and there's even there's like a very nice Easter egg to the original. So I don't think they could even. I think they bought the rights. Like Netflix would not.
Yeah.
I don't think they could have like an
they
unofficial.
have to. They. So I watched sort of a Q&A with Sucharita of the director, who is Akash Bhatia. So he said, like, before they could even make the movie, they had to get the rights and stuff, and the producers got in touch with them, and even Tapsee was like sort of was encouraged by the actual actors of Run Lola Run to for the project and such.
Yeah, I think this got quite positive reviews in general, and you liked it. I think you watched it like a couple of days before me, and I was just bowled over because I did not like this movie at all. Like, at all. And for me, like, I like Tapsee Pannu. Most of her movies I watched, and I've kind of been outside of the conversation why people find her suddenly annoying. But and also I remember really well watching Run Lola Run. I was in college when I watched it, and I've not seen it since then, because I don't think it's been available on streaming that much, right? Like, I don't think it's any on the major platforms. Otherwise, I would really revisit it. So and this is a concept I like, remaking a movie from a while back that can have a fresh twist to it, or you can add something new to it, make it like a local story. But this movie like has no chill whatsoever. Like, I just didn't like it at all. Like, I didn't think this is Tapsee's zone, in terms of, like, it has like a bit of kind of dark comedic cartoonish comedy in it, and I just didn't understand what tone Tapsee is trying to strike there. And also, everything in the movie is very ugly, like the way it's shot, like the way the people are, like everybody is shot with this very low angle close up, and it makes everybody have like this very huge nose, and it just I don't know.
It's like a very close up wide angle lens, so it sort of distorts your face. And
it does,
yeah.
I don't think that lens should be used on Asian noses. nose. Like, I don't think we have the nose for that lens. Like, it's like, it makes our noses like 60% of the screen, and that just isn't like very appealing. And I think like, I just didn't care for anybody. Like, I didn't care for the main couple getting together. I didn't care for Appu Gappu. I didn't care for Julia and Jacob. I was basically hoping that the Rasta dude would just get away with the money. Like, that's what I was hoping for. Like, he seems like a chill guy. It has like a bit of that Delhi belly kind of dark humor kind of energy, but I think it's just too late. Like, Delhi belly was like, I don't know, like 15-20 years ago or something like that. Like, and I think this energy just doesn't work for me anymore. And this loop kind of revisiting the day thing has been done so many times, and it done so much better. Like, I mean, Groundhog Day, but you can also like Source Code, or recently on Netflix, Russian Doll did that so much better. And I just feel...
And Palm Springs.
Yeah, Palm Springs. And I just don't feel this added anything to that. I mean, and I don't even mind that they're remaking Run Lola Run, but that movie is so old. If you're not adding something new to it, it just didn't work for me.
I think like for me, I was totally taken for the ride, and I enjoyed it, I guess, in a way. And also they sort of expanded the love story of Savi and Satya, and then there is the sort of mythological connection with it when Satya tells the story of Savitri and Satyavan, and the things that you would go to, the lengths you would go to save your love, and take back your lover from the throes of death and bring them back to life, and that within the sort of comic book graphic novel storyline of this time loop, and this universe that is set, which is it is a fictional world. It is a parallel sort of a universe, and like I really enjoyed it in that way.
I have a theory. Is it maybe because you just watched Ye Kali Kali Aankhein too, that you have a...
No, I gave up on Ye Kali Kali Aankhein though. I watched like one episode, and I gave up on it. But I really enjoyed like Tahir, Bhasin in this. I even like Tapsee Pannu's sort of characterization in this. Gappu and the what was his brother's name? Appu Gappu.
Gappu and Appu.
Appu Gappu. That bit got a bit stretched. Like, when you really keep on doing the same joke and it gets repetitive. I know they're going for the laughs, but that became a bit like, the Johnny Lever portion of the movie, which if you keep it really... Keep it dense and short, then it's fine. But I think the whole... where in Run Lola Run, if you remember, because I remember this because I rewatched it recently, when she runs past these strangers and they show like in really tight flashes of how their life changes after that when Lola touches their life. And then in every iteration that changes, in one sort of iteration, this lady, sort of dies. And then in the next one, she wins a lottery and gets married and all of that. So they sort of expanded that and added the whole, the Julia and the Jacob story here and the Appu Gappu. They made changes, obviously. And some of them worked, some of them didn't. So but for most part of it was enjoyable for me.
You also ran a poll on Instagram with our listeners, right? About what they thought. What were the results there, Sujoy?
So Asim is like swinging the hammer of democracy on my face.
I'm like a proper fascist man. Like, when democracy works for me, I'm all in favor for it.
I know. Like the day he watched what's his movie's name, Loop Lapeta, he told me on Twitter like he really hated it. So I was like, okay, I'll run a poll and see. Khandaan is pretty divided on this, and the audience like fairly decided in like 80-20 or something bizarre that they did not like Loop Lapeta at all.
Yeah. Although I think people might have voted because they just don't like Tapsee at the moment, which again I don't understand. Manish, man, does that make you want to watch the movie more or less?
I agree with you that I like Tapsee Pannu. I mean, I've seen her in movies that I like Man Marzia. I'm a big fan of. But I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, we'll see. I just I have a lot of trouble kind of getting into these Netflix original Hindi movies because I feel like they just kind of lack sort of this quality to them. It's I have the same with non-Indian Netflix movies too, where it's just I mean, Netflix, I feel like their content is just so digestible and forgettable that it's hard for me to get excited about something because in 2 weeks we're going to forget about it,
Yeah.
But
Amrita,
from an aesthetic perspective, from a total aesthetic perspective and the visual look of it, it is very much unlike anything Indian content that Netflix has produced.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I think Get Filmy, one of the friends of our podcast, Shakila, she sort of said every single Netflix Indian production looks pretty much the same. So if you take a frame from Sacred Games or A Serious Man or even Ye Kali Kali Aankhein or Raat Akeli Hai, it all looks the same. But I think this one totally stands out from from the cinematography, the colors the color palette that they've used in this movie. I really enjoyed it in that way. So, आप convince हो गए या मैं और भी बोलूँ?
Amrita to convince me. Amrita, I was going to ask you. You also read that article about Netflix, right? How badly they're doing in India.
I don't know which article you're talking about, but sure, I know that they're doing really badly in India. Yes.
Yeah, there was a BBC article that kind of came out, and I think a few people that we know, like Suchin, contributed to it about how India's been basically a mess for Netflix, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this is something that we've discussed a few times already, that, I feel that they should just fire the entire team at Netflix India. Whoever's commissioning is doing a terrible job. But yeah, I was just wondering if you had thoughts on that article.
I don't think I read that article, so I don't have any thoughts about that per se. But I mean, we are on the same page regarding Netflix's content, because I think we've spoken before about how their strategy has been to just lean into legacy filmmakers, and they try to just get the big studios on board and see what they could do, and that was clearly the wrong way to go, because I think Fox is a really good cautionary tale for a lot of foreign studios or platforms that are coming to India, because you can just see how they were taken for a ride, and basically they got into bed with a whole bunch of people and then just ended up spending a lot of money, and that was it.
So yeah, I mean, we're talking about Netflix's problems with streaming content, and I think in that article I was referring to, I'll try to find it and add it to the show notes. They were mentioning that the movies that they're producing are doing actually better than the TV shows that they're producing, that they haven't really gotten a hit yet, and other streaming services like SonyLiv and Hotstar are doing much better in India, at least. So, I mean, one of the shows, two shows that you guys have both watched, Amrita and Sujoy, are Rocket Boys and Great Indian Mystery, if I'm not mistaken. Sujoy, you've seen both of them,
Great
right?
Indian Murder. I started watching Rocket Boys. But I was totally not in the zone to appreciate Jim Sarbh. So I sort of have shelved it for now, and I'll watch it in a later date, because I've heard really good things about how good it is. Excuse me. But I did watch The Great Indian Murder because, again, free Kamal on Hotstar, so why not? Didn't you finish Great Indian Murder?
I watched 4 episodes or something, and then I forgot about it until you mentioned it today. And then I was like, oh yeah, that was something that I was going to finish. But basically, I think it's one of those ripped from the headlines sort of a thing. There's at least one famous son of a politician who was jailed for rape, and then he was let out on bail, and then there was like a whole like media circus around it, and there was like a lot of public sentiment against it, and people were talking about like how you can basically get away with anything as long as you're rich and powerful. So I think like that's what this is based upon.
Doesn't it feel like all of these kind of thrillers are the same? Like No One Killed Jessica, Talwar, it all is about some rich politician's son raping somebody and then figuring out where the body went. Like, but this is getting good reviews though, Soja, right?
I don't know. I think, especially with, we had this conversation about, streaming platforms dropping all episodes at once, and how the conversation just dies within 2 days once everybody's done with binge watching, or people just give up. It's the same with Great Indian Murder or any other streaming shows that we've been through. Like I mentioned it, and Amrita was like, "Oh yeah, that was last week," and I can't remember the conversation people were having around this show either, like whether it was positive or negative. I just like it came along with this whole barrage of other stuff that we are also watching. Like we all watched Reacher on Amazon Prime, and that pretty much took all my attention, at least. So I have some faint memory about watching this show, but and all of them were negative. So I went into watching Great Indian Murder because it has Prateek Gandhi, who was one of the breakthrough stars from last year from Scam 1992, where he played the role of Harshad Mehta, and in this he plays this opportunistic, scummy CBI inspector who is like doing some fiddling around with evidence and stuff. There's Richa Chadha in this show, and the main reason I was watching this show was because it's directed by Tigmanshu Dhulia, who, when he likes to do stuff really good, then it's really aces. But most of the time it's mediocre to shit. And like the second half of this show, where when you think that the murder mystery is going to get resolved, it just blah. Like it's really bad. Like the first 2 episodes of this show are really great, like the story of the murderer, and then it goes for a recap and the story of the father of the murderer, and then it tries to, as in a murder mystery, you try to add more layers and more suspects and create more branches throughout the main storyline, and then it just can't pull it back. It felt like that. So I went on the Wikipedia and checked, like it's based on a novel written by Vikas Swarup called Six Suspects. Vikas Swarup, as we all know, also wrote Slumdog Millionaire. And so that sort of exploration of the Indian landscape, as the name suggests, is also there. But it sort of feels like tokenism at this point. It says the Great Indian Murder, so it spans across Calcutta to Andaman and Nicobar to Jaisalmer to Delhi farmhouses to Raipur and all of that, and even in Chennai as well. But I don't know what was the point to all of this. And at the end of it, it really did not resolve the murder itself. So I feel cheated.
Oh, wow.
So does it end on a cliffhanger?
Yeah.
Oh, ew.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's up with cliffhangers lately?
I don't know, but I wish people would get over it, because I loathe cliffhangers, especially in like murder shows and stuff. I mean, I don't mind if like the B plot has a cliffhanger, but the A plot needs to get wrapped up, like I have very strong opinions about this. Yeah, like I don't know, like I felt like there were points in that, now that I'm thinking about it, there were like points in the show where I felt like they were maybe trying to do something interesting and something clever. I remember most distinctly, like, there's this thing where like the guy that gets murdered, his name is Vicky Rai, and Vicky Rai sets up this I guess like he's going to sleep with this Bollywood starlet. And it's sort of like transactional, he's going to like get her a film award or something as long as she sleeps with him or something. And she checks into his hotel suite and she's sort of psyching herself up. And there's this completely gratuitous shot of her with her sari off, and she's like basically in her blouse or something. And I was like, wow, like, she's not the fittest Bollywood actress that I've ever seen. And then like in the next scene, he literally points that out and sort of fat shames her and says that, like, what kind of Bollywood starlet are you who would want to sleep with you when you look like that? So I thought like that was clever. Like, like they were just sort of rolling with like visual cues and then sort of setting you up as the audience. But also like, immediately after that, like there's this whole thing about like a black man that comes from Nigeria. And I was just like, oh, now we are in the racism part of the show, I guess. And so it's just like, it was just so like, at one point you're like, oh, maybe this is what the show is about. And then the other moment you're like, oh, like this is just the same as the usual bullshit. But also I feel like the title of the show was kind of misleading, because if you name something The Great Indian Murder, then you think like everything's going to be about the murder. But actually it's sort of like this, I don't know, like a social commentary sort of series where, they're talking about like the different societal ills of India or something. And I was like, well, bully for you, but who cares? Like that's not what I thought that I was signing on to.
So the show is about how to be a great Indian more than the murder.
No, it's actually about like the worst Indians that live, It's like, these are the kind of scummy people that live in this country. And I'm like, great, I know that. I'm on Twitter. I see it every day. Thanks.
Manish, this show wasn't even on your radar?
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. The title sounded interesting, but I guess I'm not going to check it out.
It is available on Hulu though, so for us outside of India, we can also have access to it now. I had it on my playlist, but Reacher took all of my time, and I think we've all loved Reacher on Prime. And I think, I don't know, maybe we should ask our listeners or our Patreons if they want like a specific Reacher review show, because I think, we could talk like an hour about that show, how cool that is. So I didn't get a chance to watch The Great Indian Murder, unfortunately. The other good show that we're hearing a lot about is Rocket Boys. And I still haven't figured out if SonyLiv is available to me or not. Amrita, you were saying it was, right? Or is it not? I'm not sure.
I have no idea, but I know that they do have an international subscription model, because I've seen people from outside of India talk about it. So it is available somewhere.
SonyLiv is available to Sling TV users in the US, but definitely not in UK or Europe.
Okay.
Right. So Amrita, what am I missing out on Rocket Boys? Because you seem to love this show, right?
The lunatic brown kid is blowing up the courtyard again.
प्रभु रॉबर्ट गॉडर्ड 15 साल पहले ही करिश्मा कर चुके, तो फिर मैं क्यों नहीं कर सकता? अब पीछे आ जाओ, ये फट भी सकता है.
I've only seen 2 episodes so far, but I am going to watch it all the way through. And it is possibly one of the best streaming shows that I have seen come out of India.
Wow.
And I mean, you should take that with a pinch of salt, considering considering how little I actually sit down to watch. But listen, give it points for making me interested enough to battle my way through the SonyLiv, algorithm, and then actually watching it on that completely hostile platform, and then actually liking it enough to recommend it to people. But I really enjoyed it. It's about Dr. Homi Bhabha and Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who are, they were respectively, they headed up the Indian nuclear program and the Indian space program. And it's about their friendship, the eventual falling out, and their contributions to Indian science. And it's amazing to me because like it's not jingoistic in a way that I would expect it. I don't know if that changes later on in the series, but in the first couple of episodes that I saw, we start with them on the eve of or during the war with China in 1961, and then it's sort of like a flashback to 1940, where the Blitz is going on in London. So both of them end up in India from the UK, and they're sort of going through the war in India, in Bangalore, at the IISc, with C.V. Raman, which like I didn't even know like that they had intersected at that point. But like, so it's like people that I have grown up admiring their work because these are like some of the most famous scientists in India, you know, and I'd grown up hearing about them. And then all of a sudden, here's like a very human portrait of these people who are like, they're sort of like, sometimes they're a bit dickish. They're like a little too idealistic, but they're also like proper lads. And it's like really gives you a great sense of who these people were and why they did the things that they did. And it was just really interesting. And they also showed, well, for Homi Bhabha, they created a fictional character to play his girlfriend. She's based on his actual, real life partner whom he never married. But they created this fictional character who is a kick-ass woman in the 1940s. And then they showed Mrinalini Sarabhai, who, I'm a Malayali. Every Malayali knows Mrinalini Sarabhai. She, her mother, her sister, like they're all like super famous. And, it was just really nice to see her and Vikram Sarabhai, and like their beginnings of their story and everything. Like it was just, it was like watching a very under-discussed part of Indian history come to life without like weirdness around it.
Interesting. Manish, are you a Jim Sarbh fanboy?
Well, okay, fanboy, I don't know. I do like him. I was kind of looking at his filmography to see. I like Kamirja Padmavat. I really liked him in Made in Heaven, which I kind of forgot existed, but I really did like that show. So, I'm always interested to see what he's doing. I mean, this show sounds really interesting. I don't think I have this service, so I don't know if I'll be able to see it. But I feel like I enjoy his work.
I think even Zoya Akhtar and Rima Kakti have forgotten that Made in Heaven existed. Like, where's that second season if it's ever dropping again?
Yeah.
Although even like I'm worried if they even can drop a second season now. Like I feel like even then when it dropped, it was quite like scandalous, and now I think people have even less tolerance for anything a bit, outside of the box. But yeah. Unfortunately, I won't be able to watch the show, but although it does sound interesting. But is SonyLiv should I be jealous that I don't have access to that service?
No, not really.
But there's Asim, there's good news on the horizon though, because SonyLiv and Z, or Sony and Z TV, have sort of merged in India. Yeah. So they're like their content is going to be on one platform, I think. So probably because we have Z5 in the UK, right? So that is a possibility that all their content should be available there, like technically.
And I think Scam 92 was like SonyLiv, right?
Yeah.
So they're actually making some really good content. It's just, their UI is just a nightmare. Like it's just actively hostile. It's even worse than crime. Like it's amazing.
Yeah,
man.
Another streaming show that SonyLiv made last year was Dabbar, which was amazing.
Yeah,
I think you guys should check it out.
Yeah.
Well, if I wanna, get another Z5 subscription to watch Khali Pili and Radhe again, I'll definitely check out. Scam. I was also like feeling a bit of FOMO there that I was missing out. But yeah. Let's move on to our main review, which is Gehraiyaan.
I don't like being alone. I feel so stuck.
मैं यहाँ एक्स्ट्रा क्लासेस ले रही हूँ टू ट्राई एंड मेक दिस वर्क. तुम क्या कर रहे हो?
बेकार में ओवर रिएक्ट मत करो यार.
जब हम छोटे थे टिया और मेरी लाइफ बिल्कुल सेम थी. But now it's just so different.
Guys, this is my fiance Zain. That's Alicia, my cousin.
Nice to meet you.
क्या बात है टी? टस्कनी में शादी कर रही है?
I hope so.
करण, कचरा नीचे डालो यार.
अरे आधा मुंबई ऐसी जीता है.
Yeah, I want to live like the other half.
थोड़ा चांस तो लेना पड़ेगा नहीं?
So this episode, we're actually basically doing something new, right? This is like the Avengers. We're cross-posting thing, right, Manish?
Yeah. I know this is the greatest crossover in history.
So this episode, this review of Gehraiyaan will also be appearing on Manish's podcast. Manish, you want to tell us a bit about your podcast?
Yeah, so I host a podcast, a Pod to Be You, which is on the Talk Film Society network. And basically, I usually chat with a guest about romantic comedies. Amrita, you were on the guest way back in its early days talking about Pillow Talk, which is a really fun episode. It's been kind of on a hiatus since I've been going back to school, but I've been trying to bring it back for any kind of buzzy romance movies that are, hitting either the screen or kind of hitting on streaming services. So I was, when I saw the teaser for Gehraiyaan, and you had talked about it on your, flash forward to 2022 episode a few weeks ago, I suggested we kind of bring our two podcasts together to talk about this very a hyped up movie, which is exciting because I love to podcast with you all. I enjoy your podcast, of course, and I'm really really excited that we could do this.
Yeah, same here, and I think it's. It just came out. It basically just dropped on Prime, but I've been seeing a lot of buzz about it, and it's just cool that there's conversation about a movie again, right? Like that feels kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So I'm not even sure. I don't even know what you guys feel about the movie, but let's get into it a little bit, right? You want to give us like a plot synopsis if you can?
Yeah, Gehraiyaan is it's about Deepika Padukone playing Alicia, who her career is kind of stumbling. She's in a stale relationship with Khandaan, played by Dhairya Karwa, I believe his name is. And she's kind of estranged from her father, played by Naseeruddin Shah, and her cousin, Tia, played by Ananya Panday. But then she meets Tia's fiance, Zain, played by Siddhant Chaturvedi. And they kind of connect and get to know each other and kind of bond over their kind of shared troubled childhoods. And they enter into an affair. And I'll kind of leave it there so we can get more into it later. But that's the basic gist of it.
Yeah, and we're going to keep it spoiler free because the movie just literally dropped like 2 days ago. So we want to give people a chance to hear a discussion and if we recommend it or not. But we'll let you know when we get into spoilers a bit later on. Amrita, what did you think of Gehraiyaan?
So I knew going into this film that I wasn't going to like the characters because it was very clear from the pre-release publicity stuff that it was about infidelity. Like it was clear from the trailer that, Deepika's cheating on her cousin's boyfriend or with her cousin's boyfriend. And I knew already like that I wasn't going to like, the characters. And I know that Deepika has been going around town, sort of emitting all this word salad about like, when you see somebody and you understand the journey that they've taken in life, then maybe you like and appreciate or understand their choices. And I have a fundamentally different position from that because I feel like you undergoing trauma does not mean that you have the right to traumatize other people. Like that's not how things should be. that is often how things are, but it is not how things should be. So I had issues with what she was saying. But obviously this is a Shakun Batra movie, so I knew that it was going to be at least competently made. I've liked all the other movies that he's made so far, so I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. And also I like the cast. I haven't seen Dhairya Karwa in anything else, I don't think. And obviously this is my first Ananya Panday film, but Noni's way better than I thought that she would be. And Deepika, of course, is a favorite. Couldn't wait to see her. And she excels in movies and roles of this sort. So I couldn't wait to see her. And I really enjoyed Siddhant Chaturvedi in Gully Boy. And I was looking forward to seeing him in something else. So I can't say that I enjoyed this film. And I don't know if I'll ever rewatch it, because this is 100% not the kind of film that is destined to become a comfort watch. I feel like I'd judge you if this was your comfort watch. But I do know that I would... it was an interesting watch, and I have a lot of opinions and I have a lot of things to discuss with all of you about it.
Manish, you've been missing Deepika on screen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been a really long time since she's been in a major movie like this. And, I agree, she's a favorite of mine. I'm always looking forward to what she's doing. I think she's a really intelligent actor. She chooses, I think, her movies with care, especially in the later half of the 2010s, once she, got... I think as she got more confident, so I really appreciated her, and I was so happy to see her in a really central lead role like this. I kind of, I enjoy movies like this. I mean, I wouldn't call this a comfort movie for me, but I definitely do want to watch it again and kind of mull it over and kind of think about the filmmaking and the themes and the characters. I mean, I liked the characters, and then I thought they were engaging and compelling and really complicated. Would I be friends with any of them? Maybe Tia, and she seems like a nice person. But the other ones, and Nasir Din Shah, I would love for him to be my mentor in life. But I think this movie did a really interesting job of showing, kind of the pressures that people are put under, and how they make all these really awful decisions and kind of all these things kind of snowball. And it was interesting to think about this movie as a escalation of what Shakun Batra did in Kapoor and Sons, and even what he did in Ek Mere Ek Tu, which is a romantic comedy, very lighthearted, but seeing him go from his first film to Kapoor and Sons to this one, it's interesting to see how he's really dialing up the pressure and the anxiety. I mean, even when I first saw Kapoor and Sons, I was almost I'd sometimes had to take a breath because I was so anxious. And this movie, I didn't breathe for 2 hours. But I enjoy that experience. I don't know if you guys have seen Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. It's very similar, which is just everything just gets piled up until the end, and you're just stressed. And it's not a great feeling, but it's one that I can get on board with. Once I knew that that's what this movie was doing, I thought it'd be more like Kapoor and Sons. It was just very intensely emotional, but not anxiety inducing movie. But I'm happy that I watched it, and I think I will probably watch it again in a little while, just to appreciate what it's doing on a deeper level.
So Joy, I think Deepika called this a domestic noir. As a genre of filmmaking, but this made you think of Mahesh Bhatt. Is that correct?
Yeah. So for those who grew up in India in the 90s, like me and Amrita, we used to get fed this daily dose of a Mahesh Bhatt soap called Swabhiman, and it was the crazy story about Indian rich people and their smoking problems and their infidelity in their life, and romantic life problems and all of that. So it sort of brought back those memories of back in the day of those characters within this really polished package that Shakun Batra has presented in this Dharma production movie. And I had expectations of what sort of a movie I was expecting from a Shakun Batra production directorial feature, and it delivers on all of those. It is a really well-made, aesthetically pleasing movie. Obviously, as everybody, Amrita and Manish rightfully said, it really triggered my anxiety levels in this movie. It sort of takes you in and welcomes you into this world with pleasing music, and then it just sucks you into the sunken place until you are trying to escape. And both the protagonists as well as the supporting characters are just there, almost helpless, trying to flee from that. If that sounds like a horror feature, I think you might have, approximated the sort of atmosphere this movie is going for.
Weren't you? There's a lot of shots of waves in Gehraiyaan, and I was thinking we shouldn't have watched Janbaz just before watching Gehraiyaan.
Exactly.
Who's dropping acid here? Man, this movie is a messy bitch. That's I came out. Those were the first words that came into my mind.
Yeah.
And Amrita,
you said. Like you said, what it's a messy bitch. I just wrote, what a mess. This movie starts with the Dharma title, the symbol, and then the Kuch Kuch Hota Hai theme music that I really missed, because the last time we saw that was probably in Suryavanshi, and I really missed the Dharma aesthetic. And Dharma is known for movies like this, like the whole rom-com drama, family romance, or love and relationships, and I missed that. And then this movie starts, and the moment I saw Deepika having flashbacks, and I was like, what a mess.
Yeah. And Amrita, I don't really I don't like messy movies. I don't like watching movies about infidelity. It's just not it's just not my thing necessarily. It's just ugly people. Why are they, why can they just not break off a relationship before they start a new one? I'm a very kind of clean meat and potatoes kind of guy. I don't like that necessarily, watching that complexity. And I mean, we've been just going through a few things on a personal level. So I was watching this with my wife, and she hates watching infidelity movies. And she had to basically leave, or it was getting late, and she watched an hour in, and she was like, "Tell me tomorrow how it went, and should I watch the rest?" And
she did a poo on you.
Yeah, she did.
How it was.
Yeah, specify that you mean the Kabhi Khushi, Kabhi Gham character, and not somebody did a poo on me, which some people are into. That's not our lifestyle.
I'm suggesting that. I'm
just saying, Bhabhi hai teri.
Bhaiya dar gaye.
So, and the second half of the movie just takes it to a whole different anxiety level. That's what you were kind of talking about, right? But
yeah,
I think when you talk about Deepika, I've always said this, she's this automated Robotron of perfection. And she has been delving into this kind of more messier sides of things, which I don't know if I've really it's really suited me to watch those. I've not watched, what was the last one with the acid?
Tamasha?
Tamasha, yeah. No, not Tamasha.
No, Tamasha is the one with Ranveer
Chapak.
Chapak. Mm-hmm.
Chapak, yeah. I've not watched that. That one was, I didn't want to be in that darkness necessarily. But I was really happy to see her back on screen, because it really hit me how beautiful she is. Not as a person only, but as a performer. And
yeah,
I was just so happy that somebody's capturing her, and it's not Sanjay Leela Bhansali, because Sanjay Leela Bhansali makes everything a painting, and it makes it so static. and this has like a glow to it, the way she's shot, the way everything is done, and that was really like refreshing to me, like the way Shakun Batra's eyes towards Deepika. And this is Deepika's movie. It is kind of 4 actors, but it is really about Deepika and her journey. And I think that's really like, it really elevates the way she's shot, the way she's framed, and it's just a beautiful movie to watch. I'm still not sure if I like the movie though. Like it's a complicated movie because these are like complicated people, I think. So it's very hard to just say like, oh, full recommend, go watch this movie, you'll have a great time, yeah. I don't know why I suddenly started sounding like Ananya Panday, but yeah, it's an interesting watch for sure. It's and I think I need to digest the movie a little bit more, and I don't think I've had the time to do that yet, unfortunately. I mean, Deepika is great. Vinita, what did you think of Deepika specifically in the role?
I knew that she was going to knock it out of the park, and she did. She is just, she has a vulnerability, and honestly, like, Sujoy was talking earlier about the way that this movie structure gives him anxiety, and Manish was saying the same thing. And it's true, but also it's the way that Deepika conducts herself, especially in the last like half an hour, 45 minutes. I won't go into spoilers here, but she discovers something about herself. And from that moment on, she just sort of amps up the anxiety. And you can feel it through the screen, and it just makes you feel terrible too. And so she had a great role to play in building up the atmosphere, so it wasn't just lights and mirrors. I don't think it was just camera angles or anything. It was her performance. And Siddhant did the same thing, the way that he becomes sort of like a weasel. That was also like super interesting.
It's such a complex character that he needs to play, right, Siddhant? Because he's kind of like this slick. Yeah, but he's also like he's slick, he's rich, but he also has this background of domestic abuse. But then he also has this like feral, like sexuality, like Deepika ko kha jayega. The moment he sees her, he's like, I'm gonna pounce on her. And it's a lot of like different things, and plus he's like a master gaslighter. Like, it's amazing to see him do this. Like, it's like infuriating to watch it as a man, I feel, because I've been that man. Like, it's just like, it's horrible. But like that guy that says like, give me like 6 more months, give me like 4 more months. It's weird to see that on screen, and it never goes well. You are not a good guy when you're doing that. But Siddhant does it really well. Manish, what did you think of Siddhant's performance?
So I've only seen him in Gully Boy, which is a movie I love. And in that movie, he's like the perfect, like, positive masculinity. He's a supportive friend. He's not jealous. He's just the great guy. And so in seeing him in this movie, I was like taken aback by like how much I was able to like get swept up in him, and then how long it took me to see him as the weasel. And even when he's like gaslighting Tia, I'm like having to remind myself not to like believe his lies, because he's so good at it and he's so compelling. And I was so just, impressive performance, I think. One that it's a lot of different shades. And I think he complements Deepika Padukone so well, because I think she wears so much on her face. And, as an audience member, you're locked into her interior life just through her performance. But with him, you really have to dig in to find it, and you're always kind of guessing what he's thinking or what he's going to be doing. So, it's really, I think both of them together are just, really fascinating to watch.
I want to move to Ananya Panday a little bit carefully. So I'm bringing you in.
I was about to speak about Deepika and Siddhant, but okay.
Go ahead. Go. If you had said, please.
No,
please
I just wanted to add to what Amrita and Manish have already said about their performances. Like Deepika is like at least in my head, I still remember her as Shanti Priya. So she has that Hema Malini image of her, or the Bollywood princess look set in my head. And she's been doing this Sanjay Leela Bhansali movies. So you see that same actress in this, like, obviously she is still glammed up, but totally in pastel colors and in like a washed face look. And she is in this messy situation when she thinks she's the unlucky one. She's got so many problems. She's got a history of trauma in her life, and she's still processing her grief. She has a strained relationship with her father and all of that. And to see somebody that beautiful go through life as if she's inadequate and she's not enough is like heartbreaking. And Deepika just portrays that so well. I thought that was brilliant. And I think the writing comes into play, the way she's portrayed with the camera angles and obviously the performances as well. With Siddhant, like what I really appreciated was like, you can see that as the character of Zain thinks what he's doing is the best thing that he can do for himself, and he's totally right in that way, and he does not care about anybody else, and that sort of truth that he is living until that moment where we will talk spoilers, until that very moment where he has to sort of cross that line. But until then, he really believes what he's doing is right. That sort of like took me like, wow, that's a really crazy performance, and I really enjoyed that. As for Ananya, I was completely surprised. Like, and Siddhant and Ananya are also in a Zoya Akhtar movie that sort of got announced a couple of months back, and I think it's coming out in 2023, called Kho Gaye Hum Kahan, with Adarsh Gaurav from White Tiger. He's also in that movie. It's an Excel production. So they sort of look in the same zone, but I'm guessing like Zoya's story would be something else completely. But I really wasn't expecting Ananya to be as good in this. And I really hope like this is the Ananya Sons in a way.
The Ananya Sons. Amrita, do you think, like, I'm wondering, like, about Ananya, is it the performance that's good? Because I do feel she's playing a character like that's a play on her public persona in a way. Like, she seems like the image that's been created around Ananya seems to be a very vapid, superficial kind of like, bourgeois kind of person. So the character of Tia seems to be what she's playing there, or is it just that the casting is so good that having her opposite Deepika creates like a power dynamic where, Deepika is, Deepika, the amazing Deepika. And on the other hand, you have the shorter Tia kind of like on the background, but she's the rich one. So I thought that was kind of an interesting dynamic that they had in this movie. What did you think about that?
I don't agree that Tia is a frivolous or vapid character at all. I think she is pretty much, she is, I hesitate to call her the moral center of the film because she doesn't have access to all the information, but she is a gentle presence. And the actions that she takes in this film come from a place of love and from a place where she wants things to genuinely get better, whether it's what she does for Sid or what she does for Deepika's character or what she does for Dhairya's character. So I genuinely liked Tia a lot. Like, I thought she was just a really sweet presence throughout the film. I think like what a lot of people are mistaking for pretentiousness or for vapidity is just a very true to life portrayal of what life is like when you earn a certain, or you have a certain amount of money and you're Indian. I've seen a lot of people make fun of the burrata cheese scene where she's like, complaining about the cheese. But that honestly is like, she doesn't know what's happening in his life and what's happening between him and Deepika. So she's just talking about something that's very domestic. She ordered a certain kind of cheese, didn't come through. That's what it is, So I feel like Shakun does a really great job talking about or like portraying true to life characters, people that we might have met in real life. I know that I've seen the Dhairya character 100% in real life. I might have even dated that guy. But I think like a lot of people like to give pretty young women a lot of grief for being pretty young women and for not having anything more to them. But then, that's basically how a lot of people are. Like, they don't necessarily have 700 things to say about the current political situation or anything like that. Maybe they're just living like an ordinary life. So I genuinely, I thought like Tia was like a very sweet character.
Like what Manish said, I would definitely like to be friends with Tia.
Yeah. He's a sweetie.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to agree with Amrita. It's interesting that Tia is also the name of Alia Bhatt's character in Kapoor and Sons. And I don't think that's unintentional. I'm still trying to figure out, what the intention is there. But often when when writer-directors repeat names, you can maybe figure out there's some kind of connection. I think they're very similar in that they're privileged but kind of living sad lives, maybe not even aware of how sad their life truly is, and processing a lot of grief and understanding their sort of place in sort of the main story. I remember when you guys did your review of Kapoor and Sons, you mentioned that Alia Bhatt is kind of like on the fringes, and she might have been forced in a little into the story, which might be true, but I think that's also the character just trying to figure out like what is how does she fit into the Kapoor family, and I think Tia in Gehraiyaan is also trying to figure out how she fits into her own family and this whole situation, and because she doesn't have access to the information of kind of what's happening behind what's happening. When she's not around, I think she's just really trying and failing to understand really what's happening in her socials, in her life, in her family, and how much she is trying to really develop a relationship with the people around her who are lying to her. I mean, her mom says she's too trusting, and you feel bad for her. I mean, you feel for her. And so, I definitely just agree with everything you said, Amrita. So I just want to point out the connection between this movie and Kapoor and Sons.
The other connection was also that Karan was a writer, or trying to be a writer, where that was also the theme in Kapoor and Sons too, right? So
oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Two writers. Both the brothers were writers in Kapoor and Sons.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw another observation somebody pointed out on the characters like of Alisha and Zain. So Alisha's name starts with an A and Zain starts with an Z, and they have basically polar opposites of each other, but they sort of meet because of a shared middle ground where they have this childhood trauma story that they connect for, I guess, but they are essentially wrong for each other in a way.
That's interesting. I like that.
The other thing was also just Karan and Alisha's relationship, right? Because I think a lot of people will be talking about, this movie being about infidelity, which it is, right, in a way. But that was like a terrible relationship to be in, though. Like,
that relationship was over way before Zayn. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think what movie? I think it was When Harry Met Sally that says that like infidelity is a symptom of a dying relationship. It's not the cause of one. Or some movie like I think it's When Harry Met Sally. And I saw the movie when I was 15 years old. So I've carried that in every relationship movie I've ever watched. I think about that. When you think about movies like Unfaithful, of course, Silsila, Kabhi Aur Na Kehna, it's like figure how like that idea plays into those movies. I mean, I think it's very true in this movie and in Kabhi Aur Na Kehna. Less so in Silsila, that's a different kind of thing. But yeah, I think that there's, I think that their relationship and how much, it's so easy for people on the outside to kind of, not see how Karan is contributing to their relationship and how also like how much she's also not seeing how much she's contributing to like their failing relationship. So terrible relationship, but very fascinating to think about and to watch.
Yeah.
Especially that scene where like Alicia discovers that Karan has been giving the draft to be read by Tia, but not her. And then they sort of burst into this fight. And then Deepika's character, Alicia, just shouts at him, "Show me some fucking respect, Karan." And it was like, that's Deepika saying to Karan Johar, probably. Yeah. And like Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna sort of reminded me of this tweet by Melanie Easton on Twitter. She said, everyone's saying Gehraiyaan is dark, but is it as dark as putting the world's saddest sex scene right in the middle of Where's the Party Tonight?
Yeah, there's a lot of like physical contact in this movie, which is
this the first? Okay, we'll talk about this in the spoiler section.
Are we talking about the 15-minute end credit where they sort of enlist all the intimacy directors?
Oh, no. But like, yeah, we should talk about that also later on.
Let's get into spoilers a little bit, unless we have anything else we want to talk about. I think we can.
No, pretty much that's it.
Bit, right? Amrita, what were you going to say that was spoiler? So we're going to start spoiling the movie, right? So,
yes.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
So is this the first Hindi movie in which we see a man go down on a woman?
Delhi Belly has that.
Oh yeah, you're right.
What a fact to remember.
You had that like right away.
Yeah, straight away. Like it left an impression on youngster Joy.
No, there was a particular film reviewer who wrote that when Delhi Belly came out.
That was the first?
Yeah, kind of like, and that review sort of stuck in my head. This is not going to come up in a Bollywood quiz anytime soon, but yeah, there you go.
What about in Veer the Wedding? Or
what's
the scandal in that? Maybe there's some other scandal I remember from that movie of some sex scandal. I forgot what it was.
No, there was a dildo.
Really?
Wasn't it?
Vibrator
Vibrator or dildo, whatever.
Yeah.
So the last hour of this movie really kind of takes it up a notch, right? And it pretty much so it has a twist, it has 3 reveals, and it has an open ending. So every kind of like film bro kind of thing is in here, which my question for you guys was it too late for you? Because like a lot of the movie is about this relationship drama, and then only the 40 minutes becomes almost like this thriller in a way. And I'm just like, what I was thinking about, right? Like, no, I just don't know if that how was that switch for you guys? What did it work? Was it too late? Did you kind of expect it? I know, Sujoy, you were really on edge with that one, right?
Yeah, but like until even then, there was this. I think the gaslighting had already happened, so the switcheroo to the dark side for Siddhant's character Zain had already happened. So it was just a sort of. I did not expect it to take that particular turn where he's totally going, to that extreme limit of, going ahead and killing her. But I didn't know what sort of darkness this movie is going to go into. But this was one of the perhaps possible ways to resolve that sort of conflict. I was not expecting that, and I was already anxious by then, but this was like, holy shit, they really went for this now. Yeah, and when you said it was late, by then it was 3 p.m. for me. So yes, it was very, very late for me. But yeah,
So
it doesn't.
It was like it was your shot of adrenaline when you were about to fall asleep at 3 a.m.
No, I was not going to fall asleep with this movie. I was totally in that zone. Yeah, but this was like an extra boost of that. Yeah.
I like though that they foreshadowed it a little bit when he's fantasizing about killing Tia off the boat. So they kind of built it in there. But I also the backstory of Siddhant's character, that he comes from a household where he sees domestic abuse a lot of times against his mom. That changes into violence against a woman. That seemed like a very kind of I understood where that was kind of coming from. But yeah, how did that kind of like that first murder mystery kind of thing work for you, Amrita?
Like when it happened, this is like one of the things that was like so interesting to me, because when it happened, I was like, whoa, where is this coming from? Right? It completely, like, I was not expecting him to do that. I knew that something was going to happen, but I was not expecting that to happen. And then when I thought about it, like in retrospect, it made perfect sense to me. The mix of his desperation and his, his fantasies of violence, the fact that he can't touch Tia because Tia is important to his future, but he can, murder Alicia and get away with it. Like, that's something that he could do. And also the fact that his back was against the wall, and he probably, this was like a good solution, and he had already had that thought put into his mind by Rajat Kapoor's character, who asked him if he wanted Alicia handled, quote unquote. So like, it made a lot of sense. Like, that's where his mind went. It also made sense that Alicia, actually, I don't know if it made sense that Alicia was able to then pilot the boat back to the where do you put up boats? The pier? Yes, exactly. She was able to pilot the boat back to the pier, and then she just sort of like walked away, and then, like, that was it. Like, that, even though you can see that she's going through, she's an emotional mess afterwards, I don't know if I believe that Alicia is the kind of person who can keep that secret for the rest of her life. I think she's too much of a emotional mess for that to work. Like, especially
what is indeed believable is that the Rajat Kapoor's Jitesh could totally buy off CSI Mumbai, So all the evidences are planted, and yep, that was a suicide.
What about you, Manish?
So Shakun Batra goes on and on how much he loves Woody Allen, which is very unfortunate. I don't know about in India, but like here, like, it's kind of like gauche to be a fan of Woody Allen here in America.
Yeah.
So maybe it's different, over there, but I don't think it is. But it's very unfortunate. However, I'm thinking, maybe he just likes, the Annie Hall, the Hannah and her sisters and all that. You can see the DNA there. But this movie turns out, I don't know if you guys have seen Match Point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was going to say
this movie is like an extended homage to Match Point, and I didn't see it until the scene when Deepika is saying, like, in the lobby of the building, like, I want to talk to Tia, I'm going to tell her, because that scene is almost line for line a sort of tribute to Match Point. But this movie like twisted, of course, and has a very different ending. I haven't seen Match Point in a number of years. I haven't watched any of his movies in a long time, but back when I was a huge fan of his, I loved Match Point. I loved Scarlett Johansson's performance. And so, 16-year-old me was really excited that this is the turn that the movie was taking. Because I didn't really see it coming, but upon, I couldn't go to sleep right after I saw the movie, but I did. I was thinking about it, and you can definitely see the foreshadowing. Of course, not only does he have a very violent past with his abusive father, but when he talks about abandoning his mother, you're kind of like, well, I can see that. She doesn't want to be saved, but then there's also cruelty to that. Because we don't know if his parents are still alive, but he could essentially go and just take her and have her live with him. Now that he's a billionaire or whatever, and he's marrying into this rich family as well, so he has that power to do that. So in some ways, you can see how his selfishness and his tunnel vision towards his own self-preservation, it becomes clear as you start to see it. And, just like in Match Point, this idea of kind of being beholden to this woman, because Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in that movie is very much tied into the finances of his wife. And that's how he gets his leg up in the career, through her connections and her family and her money. And there's a resentment towards that. So he can also then transfer that resentment towards someone he sees as disposable, which is Alicia. And sort of also the way Jitesh becomes very callous as well. And also a turn I didn't really see that turn either. I mean, Rajat Kapoor, you kind of trust him. I like him a lot as an actor. But then he takes a dark turn too, and it's like, wow. And then you start to realize how alone Alicia is, how she doesn't really have any support. I mean, her dad's there, but at this point, she's not really connecting with her dad until way after all this. So it's, as it's taking this dark turn, I think it's done really gradually. But this is probably the reason why I want to watch it again, because I want to be able to see the foreshadowing, because I think it's actually my guess is that it's actually layered in there more than I had anticipated, or that I even noticed. And I also want to see how much of his love for Alicia was genuine or not. I'm leaning towards it actually wasn't as genuine as maybe he led on to believe, but or as much as I wanted to believe. So yeah, I mean, I think it's. It was this weird thing where I'm so anxious, but I'm also kind of excited that this movie is taking this turn that I wasn't expecting at all. Like I said, I thought this was going to be like a Dharma relationship movie where, maybe it has kind of a messy ending, but everyone's kind of fine. I was not expecting this. And I love Deepika's performance when she's at home after the boat accident. And how the movie kind of does this really, through the editing, it shows her, remembering her mom's suicide and contemplating suicide herself, because she looks at her ceiling fan, and that sent a shiver down my spine. And I mean, we'll get to the ending, because my stomach is in knots this morning, waking up thinking about this movie all night. And the ending, of course. And, but yeah, so I was into it. I mean, I tweeted that this is a very Manish movie, and it became more a Manish movie as it went on. I don't know what that says about me, so don't judge me. But yeah,
the more yacht murders, the more Manish movie it became.
I mean, look, we love crimes on yachts. That's for sure.
It's interesting you're saying that you thought that Siddharth's character didn't love Deepika's, because that's not a thought that ever came up to me. In my mind, I just thought he did love her, but he just ends up loving himself more than he can love anybody else. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
interesting
true.
to kind of revisit it that way. The second reveal that then happens is that, this movie basically does a judo flip of trauma. It's because the whole, like the first 3/4 of the movie, you feel that this is about Deepika feeling trapped in her life, right? Like she can't get away, and there's this mirror image of that's what she thinks her mom was feeling, that she was trapped in her life, or she was like in a abusive relationship, or an uncaring relationship. And that's also the blame she puts on her dad, played by Nasiruddin Shah. And then the judo flip happens, where the reveal happens that Deepika is basically the illegitimate child of an affair between Ananya Panday's father and Deepika's mother, who is also then the chacha, right? Like Nasiruddin Shah is the uncle, which then like you realize that she was never feeling trapped; she was feeling guilty, and then the movie becomes about guilt and how to let go of your past. And that was like a very interesting and a very sudden switch that the movie does. And I wanted to hear, Amrita, what did you think about, like for me, I felt it was a bit too sudden, like almost like a U-turn. But like when you watch the movie and I've kind of settled down emotionally, I understand it. But it's that a lot is happening in that last hour, and maybe it was too much. I don't know what you felt about that, Amrita.
I thought that made a lot of sense because throughout the film, like you said, there's this feeling of like Deepika not wanting to become her mother, or like feeling as if she is her mother. And at the end, when she is sitting with Nasiruddin Shah in her room, and she tells him that I wish you had told me that, because my whole life I didn't want to become that person, but that I've become that person because I didn't know. And he doesn't know exactly what she's talking about, because she hasn't, like, he has his suspicions, but she's not telling him. But it's such a powerful scene because of that. And Shakun likes that, Shakun likes the third act reveal of a family secret. Like we've seen that in Kapoor and Sons, for example. So I was kind of expecting something like that to happen, honestly speaking. Like it didn't come completely out of nowhere for me.
I also find it interesting that Shakun Batra, when somebody is trapped as a character, like when he has nowhere to go, Shakun will kill that character. Like he did that with Rajat Kapoor and Kapoor and Son, and he does it with Siddhant's character here. And I just thought that was kind of an interesting, again, like similarity, because we just recently watched Kapoor and Sons. I thought Ananya was amazing in that scene where she has to reveal, what happened exactly. I thought she knocked it out of the park there.
Yeah. One scene definitely stands out for me, and it's a very brief one where Nasiruddin Shah knocks on the bathroom door as Deepika's character Alicia is contemplating whether she'll down the pills, and then she looks and she has a razor in one hand, and then she eventually opens up the door, but then Nasiruddin Shah looks inside the bathroom and he sees blood on the sink, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? To just imagine a daughter, your daughter go through that as a father, it's just unimaginable.
Because I think what the movie is playing this trick on us, where we think that Deepika is going down the same, like the father thinks that she's dealing with the same kind of mental anguish that her mother was going through, that ended up in her suicide. But I don't know, it's just like he knows the truth, but Deepika at that point doesn't know the truth yet. So it's interesting for sure. And then the last bit is that open ending kind of thing. Amrita, you hate open endings. How does this one work for you? I'd have to ask first.
Again, like, did this change my mind about open endings? No. But also, I thought that it was clever. This movie is very clever. Like, I have like zero complaints about it being clever at all. Like, everything that happens to the characters and everything that it's not like one of those movies where you're just like, why did this happen? I know why these things happened in the movie, and I thought that it was well done, you know. Yeah, but
what about you, Manish? What did you think of the final kind of open ending? Is it even an open ending? What is it called? Like, it's not like,
I would say that it's an open ending, and that technically you can imagine, like, you know, you can have different imaginations of like what happens after the cut to black, but I don't think it's as ambiguous as I don't think it's like 100% ambiguous, because I think the most logical thing that would happen is that everything kind of gets revealed, you know, and I'm thinking that, like, this morning I was like, you know, I really like Alicia. You know, she makes a lot of mistakes, but I just empathize with her, and I think she's very compelling and interesting, and you know, I think we could write a lot about sort of the choices she makes and think about them, talk about them. So I'm like, I want her to have her happy ending, because I think she's been through a lot. But I like the ending. I think is very abrupt in a really good way. I found it to be just like my heart sank at the end, and I just was, like I said, it was just, the ending didn't reduce the anxiety. You know, it kind of it led me to a false sense of security, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe they can heal together. And then you remember that these cycles repeat themselves, right? Like, history repeats itself, and she's so afraid of becoming her mother, as Amrita says, and I think she actually does become her in ways I don't think she even expected. And you know, I also think I would love to see kind of a prequel, because I want to know what, I think her name was Sonali, like what her life was like and kind of what led her to make the decisions she made as well. Because I don't think that, you know, I think that she might have had the same, you know, mental anguish that Deepika has. But yeah, I really like the ending. I thought it was clever, as Amrita says. I agree with that. And I also think that it's the kind of ending where the director lets you imagine what happens next. And to me, that's really powerful. And it allows you to have multiple endings as well. And allows you to really just consider, like, the different variations of how the story can play out, rather than just giving us a definite, you know, this is what happens, and then everything gets revealed and she ends up, you know, alone and sad, or, you know, what have you.
What do you, I think, Sujoy, what do you think, which are the key kind of scenes that you think people will be talking about, like, in a year? Like, I feel already the Nasiruddin Shah sequence is the one that people are, like, Instagramming and, like, making, you know, posts of. What kind of, like, really stood out for you in the movie?
I think you rightly mentioned the Ananya reveal scene where she has to talk about, you know, the big secret of our family. That is one of the key scenes. But from a completely aesthetic point of view, I think the beach scene where the meet cute of, you know, post the meet cute when Siddhant and Deepika are flirting with each other, and Deepika just straight up out of the blue asks him if he's flirting with her, and then he blatantly says yes. I thought that was quite... It made that dynamic really believable straight away. And I think that's a really powerful scene. Like, I specifically remember that happening, and I don't think I've seen that happen in a Hindi movie as such.
Yeah. Amrita, were there any things that you didn't like about the movies? Anything, like, things that didn't work for you?
No, I think this movie really worked for me. Like, it's not a movie that I like necessarily, you know, but it's a movie that worked for me. There's a difference between the two.
What about you, Manish? Anything that you didn't like, that didn't work for you?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I don't think it's a perfect movie. I mean, I'm sure as the conversation continues over the next few weeks or so, people point out things that I maybe agree with. I do think that maybe it's running a little long. I mean, the credits are like an hour long, but I was like, I was expecting it to be like 2 hours and 20 minutes of movie and then credits, and then it ended I think it was like 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it's actually not that long. I felt long because I think that there's a lot of like finance talk. But I mean, whatever. That's the world of this movie. That's I think business and relationships are always going to be interconnected in Shakun Batra's movies. In his 3 movies, that's all there. So I can't think of anything. I think this movie really, as Amrita says, really worked for me. I guess I like it more, but I can't think of anything that's like jarring that I have to like point out right now.
My only minor niggles were like, there was a lot of SMS reading in this movie. Like you had to everybody was constantly texting and you had to read the text. I thought that was a bit annoying, but that's like a pet peeve I have around all movies. I just think there's too much texting in movies and too much reading of text, and the whole phone thing is just like.
Yeah, a special nod to Ranbir Kapoor and his sort of, renaming contacts into contractor and battery low and all of that.
Battery low, yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people have sort of praised the music of the movie, but what did you guys think overall about the music of this movie? Because it's been like all the promos have been pretty much, these picture perfect 90s music videos almost in a new avatar.
It sounds like one. It sounds like one song, all throughout. Like when I think about it, like that's the recall that I get of it. But it's very suited.
The sea waves.
Yeah, but it's like very suited to the movie. That's what I was gonna say. Like I feel like it's perfect for this movie.
Yeah. I liked it. I immediately downloaded the album. I'd listened to the track a few times in the promos and stuff like that. But like Dubey and even just the title track, I thought they were quite good. So I immediately downloaded the album. I haven't listened to it in isolation from the movie yet. I don't know if that will work because I do feel, what Amrita is saying, that it's a perfect accompaniment to the movie. So it'll be interesting to see how it feels detached from it. I mean, it definitely doesn't have any, Badshah song in it and Kar Gayi Chul in it, but that probably wouldn't, that would be really, really jarring if they suddenly have Nach Dene Sare at the wedding sequence or stuff like that. Oh man, that the wedding proposal. Oh, that was so painful to watch too, when Karan pops the question. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, that was
what? What would ever indicate to him that his girlfriend would like a public proposal? Just after knowing her for one day, you would know that she would not appreciate that. It was very cringe.
But I think it was just one of those guy things, we've been 6 years together, so now is the time. I'll just do this in a very public way. But yeah, it's
my book contract has been cancelled.
Yeah, he was terrible. He was terrible boyfriend. Let's wrap things up unless we have any other points that we want to talk about.
I just wanted to quickly say about the music, really, that I did not like it.
Oh, you didn't? Really? Oh wow.
I don't like. This is very that whole genre of slurry vocals. That sort of mix mash of Eurovision pop and Coldplay in Hindi lyrics. I'm just over it, and I just cannot get into it. It's just not me. I'm trying to enjoy Dubey, but I just can't. I think I've grown too old for it.
So I mean, but how do you mean tired of it? Like which other? Like I I don't listen maybe to as much music as you do, but like what other soundtracks or music has that kind of same flow?
Like there are a lot of like modern covers by indie artists and new pop artists. They cover a lot of older classics in this particular vocal style, and that sort of has ruined it for me, I think. But in the West as well, if you they cover like Radiohead's Creep or some Nirvana song or Guns N' Roses or some really odd choice that they would bring an Enya or as I said, Coldplay twist to it and sort of slow it down. I think there was a 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack where they did Crazy About Love or Crazy in Love by Beyonce, but they sort of had brought into like a slow groove to it. That just doesn't do it for me. And it's kind of that same genre of slurry vocals and that silky raspiness in the voice. It's totally jarring to me.
I think it's one of those things where like two people do it really well and then like 500 show up and try to do the same thing and you're just like nope.
Yeah, no, I thought it was quite refreshing. Well, again, like I don't listen maybe to enough music to see that this has been done a lot. Okay. Any final thoughts, Manish, on Gehraiyaan?
I mean, I really enjoyed the movie. I was like, before I watched it, I was like, oh, I hope I like this so that I can recommend it to my parents and my family. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll subject my parents to this. I feel like my dad will turn it off after 20 minutes. But yeah, no, I think it's, it makes me more excited to see what Shakun Batra does next, if this is the escalation that he's doing in his craft. Hopefully he stops the Woody Allen talk for a bit. It's disappointing, but but yeah, he's. I'm excited to see how his career takes shape after this.
Yeah, Amrita.
Yeah, I agree with Manish. I didn't know that he was a Woody Allen fanboy until my timeline told me on Twitter, and that is super disappointing. But you have your artistic blind spots, I suppose, whatever it is, and you can't fault a person for liking the things that they like. Like, what are you going to do?
Sure, yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I enjoy his movies, so I do want to see like more of him.
Sujoy?
So I just quickly want to mention the 15-minute credits sequence and the long list of people and their managers and their agents and spot boys. So like Deepika has like a long 2-pager, then Nasiruddin Shah has, Siddhant has, Ananya has, and Dhairya also. And then there's the director, Shakun Batra, who has only his driver in his team. It was amazing to see that. It was surprising. And just to remind you of the times we live in, this end credit sequence also or the end credit titles also has a whole list of people who are included in the COVID testing team, which was something. Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you as a final question, what do you think this would have done if it released in theaters?
It wouldn't have worked.
I feel like it would have worked because a lot of people would have gone to see Deepika make out with Sid.
Okay.
I think like the week one rush would have been good, but I don't think the word of mouth would carry this movie forward.
You think? It's interesting, yeah. I think the word of mouth is probably the strongest part of it. I don't know, yeah. Because you do feel it's like this, like a sexy kind of like infidelity movie, but the last hour really ramps it up. But then I wonder, with Desi audiences, they tend to spoil everything. So I don't know if how it would travel or not, because it's not like, like a Karina is a ghost kind of twist or something. But it is, it's very kind of emotionally hard hitting. So, it's interesting. I do. I'm glad that they released it on Prime, though. I'm really happy because we all got to watch it and at our own pace. And I don't know if I would have necessarily gone to the cinema to watch it, and maybe even then missed out, because you have a cinematic theatrical release and then it comes out on streaming a couple of months later and then you've forgotten about it. But this way you just watch it immediately because everybody's talking about it and it's available for you. So I'm glad they released it on Prime. Good move from Dharma. Although it would be good if Dharma and all these studios just pick one streaming service at least. Like once it's Netflix, then it's here, then it's there. Like what are they doing? Just getting money wherever. Let's wrap it up. Manish, man, was awesome having you on. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Vertigay314. Also my podcast at It Pod to Be You, which you can find on Twitter and also on many streaming platforms. Thanks so much for having me. It was so much fun talking to you all and discussing this really intense movie.
An intense conversation for an intense movie.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to have you back on. We have a few. I think we're slowly returning to the Khandaan normal setup, and I think we have a few movies that we've kind of like marked you for that we want to get you back on. So that's
okay, great. Hopefully with Shah Rukh Khan.
Everybody wants Shah Rukh Khan. Everybody.
I would love to come back. Thanks.
Yeah. So Joy, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at 93K.
Amrita?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
And I'm at Asim Bernie. This was Khandaan. Thanks for listening, guys. Join us on Patreon for other cool stuff. Sign up there or subscribe on Apple TV. Leave us a review there. And we'll be back next episode. Oh, we can announce it in
Apple
a way, right?
TV.
We'll be doing it. Sorry, did I say Apple TV? Man, is my brain that fucked up? Apple Podcast. Yeah, Apple Podcast. So subscribe to us on Apple Podcast or leave us a review. And next week's episode will be An Evening in Paris, where we'll continue the other Khan series with Shamila Tagore. So we're looking forward to recording that.
Khandaan Podcast for acting.
Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Amir,
Salman,
and Shara.
Imagine laying poolside at an exclusive luxury vacation home in Los Cabos. Now picture a bluebird day skiing in the Colorado mountains, then unwinding in a hot tub with an alpine view. Enjoy it all with Inspirato Pass, the world's first luxury travel subscription. One monthly subscription fee includes all nightly rates, taxes, and fees. Learn more at inspirato.com/imagine.